Good morning, everyone. My name is Lori Lytle with Mortgage Coach, and today is Training Thursday. Today we're going to train on a refinance, and what we're going to focus on, what we call this, is the 3 jars of investment. And the reason for this is it's just providing you an additional strategy to use for a refinance. So what we'll build today and what we'll be learning is we're going to build a refinance. We'll have the current mortgage. And then we're going to build 3 products where we're going to take their savings, apply it toward an investment. We're then going to take the freedom point on the second product, and we're applying the amount of money toward principal to pay that loan off sooner. So you can see how we have a freedom point down here at 21.67. Then we also have the option, we're going to take out $50,000 and we're going to reinvest that $50,000. So with this, what we're going to do is just show you a little cash out scenario as well as just straight refinances. But what we're going to do with this is also be able to show you with the reinvestment and the investment products at the end of what period will you have enough in that account to be able to pay off your mortgage. So you can see I went ahead and I marked my product, made the switch, and now my 2 products that initially had a 30-year term for my freedom point is now to a little over 20 years. So with that, we'll be able to go in and take a look at how you'll be able to apply that investment money toward paying off a principal. So we'll focus on the reinvestment strategy during this time, as well as building out our products. So what I would like you to do is open up your question area in GoToMeeting, and I would like you to go ahead and put in the name of the company you're from, organization, and then I would also like you to put what state you're in. With that, it helps me when we do the training to be able to provide information to you about your account, as well as different information about the state. So if you can, just go to your question area and GoToMeeting, open it up, tell me your organization and what state you're from. So I appreciate that if you could go ahead and do that for me. So when we're diving into our product here, the first thing I want to point out is in the summary area. So we have our 3 products comparing against our current mortgage. So let's see what these 3 products look like. So I'm going to go into our More Info button, and let's examine each of these products. So if I go into More Info, it will go ahead and open up for me. And first we're going to review the payment breakdown. So what happened is with this mortgage, it was about 2 years ago when it was taken out. And at that time they had to have mortgage insurance. The value of the house has since increased and there's no longer a need for mortgage insurance. So that's really the huge savings here, is that MI, financing out MI. If you do FHA loans and they were in a loan over a year ago, remember they have that 1.35 MI factor. So again, we could get them a lot less money going out of their pocket refinancing. So there's one of the items. You'll see also with the slightly lower interest rate, the payment also decreases. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the closing costs. So with this, I just have basic closing costs. You can see nothing fabulous, just some basic costs in here. You can also see it in the fee details. And now let's take a look at that reinvestment strategy now. So you'll notice as we're going through the desktop version, I'm clicking away. You'll see in the lower right, left-hand corner there, I have my mobile viewing as well. Anytime I click a field, I'm driving that presentation. So you can see how I'm also highlighting, and it will also highlight on the presentation. So I wanted to point that out for you. This is how I'm driving the mobile device. So let's take a look at that reinvestment strategy. So you can see how I highlighted the second product. We're taking that monthly savings and we're applying it directly toward principal. With that, we have that loan would be paid off in a little of 20.5 years. So we're still ahead of the game with our 30-year mortgage. So then let's take a look. You can see how there's 0 being applied on the other 2 products toward principal. Now let's take a look further down. So we want to take a look at the investment. So with the investment product right here, we went ahead and said, started the account with 0, and we're also going to work when we come back into the file, we're going to increase that amount so I can show you as you're talking with the borrowers how you can place these goals with them. So I have an investment starting at 0, and I'm going to earn 4%. I'm placing now that monthly savings into my investment account each month instead of principal. So you can see how we did that. And then the second product, you can see how I left that dollar amount 0. But now the third product, what we're going to do is take that cash out, that $50,000, and place it into an investment account. It's going to earn 4% interest, and we're applying our monthly savings, which is only $88. So we'll be able to see how much that will grow at the end of that 15-year period. You'll see at the very base, I have check marks. This is what I have done in Edge, and we'll show you how you can work this. But what this is doing is once you have enough money in your savings account and your investment account to pay off the loan, it will go ahead and do so. That's what this mark is. So at 20.42 years, I had enough money in my savings and my investment account to pay off my mortgage. So we'll go through that again when we come into Edge, and we'll be able to walk through it to help you understand this more. And again, what we had done is started with that $50,000, added the $88, and then we had our investment. The number down here, the accumulation of 15 years, that's also totaling that savings amount. So if you have any money in savings, it will take the savings plus your investment, and that's the total amount. So we are pointing at 15 years here, but just to remind you, we can always bump that up. We can show it at a 20-year mark or a 30-year mark too, so if you wanted to see the full numbers here. So I want to point that out, and we'll be learning that as well. So with that, do you have any questions before we dive into Edge on what type of product or what kind of questions you might have? So we'll be building a refinance product, and we're going to be really working with that investment as well as Edge Live. So let's go ahead and open up your Edge account. Let's go ahead and move my mobile over to the side. There we go. And let's log into Edge. So if you haven't logged into Edge before, it's just edge.mortgagecoach.com. Whoops. And your login is just your email address and the password. And remember with this, you also have Rate Watch that you have access to. And with that, it has the same login ID and password as you use in Mortgage Coach Edge. So once you log into your account, I wanted to point out in that Go to Meeting handout area is a Getting Started guide. Go ahead and pull down that PDF, and what that PDF is going to show you is items in your settings. I've been seeing a lot of presentations coming over through support, and the image is missing. So make sure you come into the contact information, make sure your information is correct. Your license number, make sure you put an identifier in front of that number, otherwise a number will only display. So remember that. Get your identifier, always press save. Make sure you go into your images, upload your logo as well as your image. So that's important to be able to place both on your presentation. It shows up very nicely on the mobile device as well as on that desktop. So please review contacts, images, and remember, PDF of Getting Started is in the handout area of GoToMeeting. One last thing after settings, remember, click on the Help button. The Help button will provide you to Mortgage Coach's Support Center. And want to point out the best way to really use this channel is the search engine. But before that, you have reference links. That first area here has a lot of our monthly calendar events, coaching calls, things like that. Recommended playlists is in our second section here. great scripting training, sales training as well. And then we have walkthrough videos, how to create an edge video, purchase, refinance, but you have this great search engine. So say I want to do an open house presentation. If I type in open house and just press search, you can see how everything with the word open house will go ahead and display. So this is a great way, especially evenings, weekends, that you could go ahead and keep getting that assistance and keep moving forward. So do any kind, you can put in reinvestment, mortgage insurance, any kind of thing that will go ahead and provide you your tutorial help. Okay, so let's dive into Edge. So with that, if you're following along and want to create this presentation, just go ahead and click on New Client. What I'm going to do is go ahead and bring up my file previously, and let's walk through and talk about it. So with that, if you're going ahead and creating this product, you could go ahead and place in a title. You could go ahead and change it to whatever you want. We just call it 3 Jars of Investment because it's just showing them 3 ways of applying that savings. So with that, you could go ahead and put that. You can always mark it as change the toggle from individual, which shows the borrower's name fields, to marketing. It just cleans up the screen. So if you want to do that, just place a title on there. And a friendly name field, it's great for copying. It's a reference name, so when you use the copy function, it's easy to find your file. So I'm going to put in Thursday, whoops, let's put in a dash, and today's date. So with that, as I move on, that's all you need. Want to point out, you can place notes in this area here, and as I advance the screen, you'll notice those notes carry with you. So with that, now we're in our goals area. So with our goals, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to reduce my payment and supporting my retirement. Moving on, I'm now starting to gather information about the house. With that, you'll notice I went ahead and left that monthly payment empty. It's not needed. It is a display. But if the borrower provided you some information, place it here so it's all within your record, so you have something to reference with. Property value purchase price, this will determine your LTV, so place that in there. That is for MI drop-off. If you have the original appraised value, go ahead and place that down because that way it will, on the current mortgage, that will be your LTV cutoff. So let's move on to the next screen, and we'll come back to this current total payoff in one moment. So now we're going to work on the current mortgage. So what we find out a lot of difficulty when completing the current mortgage is that you don't have all this information. So you don't have to worry. You get as close as you can. And remember, you can always come back when you're talking to the borrower, and if they have that information, update it and make it tight so you'll be able to have more accuracy. So with that, my borrower in this particular case took out their loan, and their first payment date was June of 2014. They had a $350,000 loan amount for an 8th rate and a 30-year term. You notice when you place in this information right here, we will display the P&I payment at the very base of the screen. You'll notice that it is grayed out. You can't edit it. The only way you can make modifications to this P&I is by either changing the loan amount, the rate, or your term. So this is how you work with refinances. So if the borrower provided you a payment but wasn't quite sure of the interest rate or maybe the original loan amount, that's fine. What you could do is go ahead and take this number here and just watch it and adjust the other two. We definitely know it's a 30-year term, so we'll keep it as 30. But they're not sure of that rate, pretty sure of that loan amount. So let's try 4.5. You'll see how the P&I payment changes. Is that closer to the accurate number that the borrower provided? If not, just keep adjusting. And you can see how it changes those numbers. So this is how, if you need to get to a P&I payment that the borrower knows they're paying, but they don't know the criteria surrounding it, you would just come in and pretty much play with the rates here or the loan amount. Also want to point out, if they definitely know the term and that interest rate, modify that original loan amount to get to the correct P&I payment. The original loan amount, let me just show you really quick. Let's go to the presentation. I want to show you that that loan amount doesn't display. We show the ending balance of the loan. So wanted to point that out, so when you come in here and you're working with that P&I number, you know you can modify that and it's not going to display. So if you have any questions on trying to work that P&I payment on a refinance, go ahead and place it in the questions if you need me to review that one more time. But you can see the loan amount, interest rate, and the term will calculate your P&I payment down here. So now let's talk about the ending balance. So when you place in this information along with that first payment date, we will calculate this information and provide you the ending balance. So with that, you can see how we have $338,750. If I move back a screen, we have another field, which is a current payoff total. If you use this field will be used for your cash to close calculation. It will not look at that remaining balance. So if you're possibly knowing that you're not going to fund for 2 months down the road, you know that payoff balance will be slightly less. Put the dollar amount here, and then we'll use that figure. If not, then go ahead and leave that field empty is always the best way. It's just to keep it empty, the payoff current total, and just ignore it, and we use the remaining balance. So let me look at some questions, just one moment. Yes, I have a question, Mark. When you advance the screen for the current mortgage and you're collecting this data, you would definitely put in that date if you know it. A lot of times they know they closed the loan in April. Well, that's not really the first payment date. Most likely it's June 1st. So when you hold that conversation with the borrower is when you'll be able to find that first payment date. And yes, if you use that, this date is calculating that remaining balance. So it is using that date to determine how many payments have been made and how much principal has been paid down from the file. It will not take into any account any principal paid down or if they were late. So if they did say they paid principal down on a loan and they know their balance is definitely less than what is calculated, don't worry. So say they did pay some additional money and they know their ending balance right now is $325,000. That's fine. You can override the remaining balance with what they believe is currently correct. You'll notice, the P&I payment didn't change because it's only focusing on the loan amount, rate, and term. So go ahead and you can override that remaining balance. So if that answered, let me go ahead now, and I'm just changing the rate so I could get my calculation back, 4.125, and there we go. So Mark, I hope that answered your question on that remaining balance. We do use that first payment to calculate how much is left owed on that loan. With that, I'm going to move to the next screen, but if there's any other questions, we can always come back. Okay. I think, Mark, if I have to go through this a little more, let me know. I think it says you got it, but if not, let me know. So with that, you place all that information in here, but just basic information on the ARM or on your fixed perfect, Mark. And then you advance the screen to the monthly costs. So you can see in here, I went ahead and put in their hazard and the property taxes, and they know they're paying around $210 in mortgage insurance. So I went ahead and placed it as a dollar figure. If you're not quite sure, know where the loans were, if you need to put an estimate, you can always use that percentage. Open up that percentage field. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on, but I do want to point out the very last field on that screen is for a second lien. So if they have second liens, and I know a lot are coming due now, just want to point out we do have a way to be able to also show it and pay off that second lien. So now let's move on to our affordability screen. The only thing I'm going to be working with this is the savings balance, because we want to work with the reinvestment strategy screen, and with that I want to show you the correlation with the savings balance and the savings interest rate. With that, it's great to use on purchase loans because you'll be able to see if they have enough cash to close. So that's what the savings balance, and when we get into the analysis screen in the reinvestment, we'll dive deeper into these two fields. I'm going to leave the tax bracket off for now. If any questions on tax bracket, let me know, and we can always loop back at the end. Leaving this affordability screen empty, and we're going now to our products. So with our products, it's when you come in here, it's actually quite simple to build a product. So when you come in, and if you're building with me, place in the name. I'm just using this first product as investment. My monthly cost is going to go to my investment account. So when you come in, you'll see that your no answer, is this a refi? It says no. Go ahead and mark it as yes. And you'll see not only the descriptions change, but you'll see your remaining balance carried over from your current mortgage. So you just toggle to a yes for the refinance to change the field descriptions, and then to get that dollar amount for your base loan amount. So we're just going to do a straight refinance. In the third product, we'll show you how to increase it for cash out. Placed in my interest rate and placed in my term, and I advance my screen. So now with this, with our products, I went ahead and just placed in 15 days prepaid interest, and then I placed in my closing cost details. So with that, if you're on an enterprise account, take a look to see if you have any fee templates built for you. If you have any of the fee templates, go ahead and carry them down. What you could do is take a look at the fees that they provided you. What it could be is the corporate level might be at one amount. Your fees might slightly be different for your branch. So say the appraisal fee is not $450, but it's $475. Make your adjustment. Do that with all the other fields too. Whatever you have, just go ahead and make any kind of adjustments to your fees. But when you're done, you'll see at the very bottom right, save as template. Name this file, and this will be saved. So the next time you come in, you're not using the corporate template, but a fee template that has been customized for your branch. We also have it, if you do have anyone in your branch on an enterprise account that does have fee templates, email us at support. We can always bring them to the corporate level. So just to show you, I'm just going to go ahead and put in Lori, and I'm putting in today's date so you can see how I can place it in a template name. You can also select what state if you originate in multiple states. You press OK, and now when you're in your list of fee descriptions, you'll have your new one that you just created. Once you're done with your fees, you always want to go ahead and apply to loan. Once you apply it to loan, it will total the APR fees and non-APR fees and place them in this area and graze them out. Now we need to work with prepaid escrows. So with that, you'll see on the next screen our monthly costs, that we have our monthly cost of hazard insurance and property taxes. We removed our mortgage insurance. It's no longer required. We're under the threshold. But now we want to collect reserves. So I'm putting in 2 months hazard, 4 months taxes, and 12 months premium. So with that, we'll go back to the fees just one moment, but I have a fee question. Yes, Mark is asking in a sense of lump sum fees. So let's move back a screen, and first what I'm going to do is show you the reserve months. I put in 2 and 4. If I go back a screen, you'll now see my prepaid escrows are now totaled. And if I go into my closing cost details, you'll see at the very base of the screen, I now have my reserves here. They're grayed out because if you need to make any kind of changes, you make it in the monthly cost, and it'll update these figures. So now, Mark, you were talking about having lump sum. Mark wanted just to give a bulk number for APR fees and non-APR fees. I believe that's what you're asking, Mark, instead of doing itemizing fees here. If you're already in and you already have fees itemized, you would just remove them through the trash can and always remember to apply to loan. When you remove your closing cost details, all your fields will now be open just like the points here. And then you would just go ahead and place in your lump sum totals in your APR, non-APR, and your prepaid escrows. So that's one way, Mark, I believe that's what you were asking, is lump sum fees. Just don't go into the closing costs. And if you don't go into the closing cost details, all these fields will be open for a bulk lump sum. So if that's not the question, put it back in. Okay, one more. Okay, we'll do that with the second product. He wants to talk a little bit more about fee templates and about title and escrow fees based on the loan amount. So we'll go ahead and discuss that when we get to the second product. Okay, so that's one way, lump sum, and we've got our monthly costs. So now the next item we'll do is create a second product. So click on the green button right below Save as Template, and that adds a new product. With that, what you're going to do is you've already built one product. You don't want to do it again because it's just the same product, but we're going to apply our savings toward principal. So put in your product title, Freedom Point. You could go ahead and mark yes for refi if you choose, but the best thing what we're going to do is use the copy firm feature. And with that, you can see how you could open up the product and choose from any products you created. So I'm going to choose my investment product and press OK. And now I've brought all that information over from my product number 1. Advance my screen, and it has my prepaid escrows and everything else in here. So it copied everything exactly from the first product to the second product, and we could keep moving on. But I'm going to talk about fees first, so let's go into the closing cost details. So with subtitles fees, and I've been working with East Coast things, doc stamps, a lot of times you want to be able to use a percentage against the loan amount. So if you'll notice on our fees, we have a percentage field as well as a dollar amount. So if I come down here and let's see, do I have a doc stamp fee? Like the documentary stuff. Say it's a certain percentage, and the same thing is with title. Title a lot of times is a specific percentage. So with that, you could go ahead and say it's 2, 1, and you can even carry the percentage out, the decimal out further if you wanted to. So you could place it as a percentage, and you'll see we'll calculate that dollar amount. You also can add padding. So if you want to just make sure you have $100 extra, you could do that, a percentage as well as padding. I also want to point out on your fees, you could create a custom fee. And with that custom fee, you could determine if that percentage field is going off the loan amount or the sales amount. So you can always customize the field and have the percentage based off loan amount, sales price, and you can always default it as APR or if it's a prepaid escrow. So that's how you would go ahead and build that with the title as well as escrow and any of those kind of stamps. So if you have any other questions, Mark, let me know and we can address it on our third fee screen. So with that, again, anytime you make fee changes at all, save it as a template. You never want to have to keep creating that wheel. Always remember those templates. So now we're going to advance the screen and we're coming to our monthly costs. We have our reserves already put in for us because we use that copy. So now let's create the third product and then we'll dive into reinvestment. So click on the green button, add another product, and let's advance to our third product. So go ahead and put in that reinvestment title, and we're going to cash out $50,000. So with that, you'll see that I already have it, $50,000 out, but let's walk through the process so you can go ahead and key it in. So what I'm doing is copying from my investment or my Freedom Point. Both are the same products, so it really doesn't matter which one I copy from. So if you happen to, when you're copying, just make sure the products are like. So you'll see how I brought all that information. It marked it as a refinance. I have my base loan amount at $338. I want to go ahead and bump that 50, so I'm going to change it from 38 to 88, and I made that adjustment. So I increased my loan amount to be able to have that cash out. Advancing my screen, I have all my fees, and I have all my monthly costs. So you can see how when you're using the copy function as well as fee templates, it starts going quicker. And the more you just go in and build a presentation, it just becomes faster and faster. So before we dive into the reinvestment strategy right here, let's take a look at the presentation. So a quick way is hovering your mouse over presentation and selecting the preview jump out. So with that, we could take a look at our file. And let's see what we have here. So with that, we're saving $339 a month in our products. We took $50,000 out, and now we're only saving $89 a month. You could click on the more info. You have more details in here just of that monthly payment. And if you have a second lien, the second lien detail will also show here. It's a quick way of seeing that payment just specifically for the P&I for a second as well as a first. So now let's talk about the savings over 60 months. So here what you're seeing is interest in MI. And you got to remember, on the current mortgage, they're still paying mortgage insurance for another 100 months until it drops from the loan. So that's why this amount is so much more than the other two in the middle. And then you have the increased loan amount. And it's still less than their current mortgage. We then take our closing costs. You can see how they're all the same. So with your closing costs, and this does not include escrows, they're just the costs of the loan, then we add it to the total cost. These are the unrecoverable costs, interest, mortgage insurance, fees, and these are now the totals, and we provide the savings, the highest savings of unrecoverable costs. So you can see in that 60-month period how much they're saving. So what we're also going to do when we go into the reinvestment matrix is find out when is the break-even point, because that's where the borrower wants to know is, in this particular case, they have savings at 5 years, but when did it take to get there? So we'll talk about break-even, so the borrower will be able to know if it's a feasible position to refinance. So now let's go back to Edge and let's go into the analysis screen. And first what I want to do is let's pull off my presentation just slightly so that way I'll be able to go back and forth and you'll be able to see the numbers. Let's go ahead and bring this just slightly over. Okay. So now what we're going to do is dive into reinvestment strategy. First off, I'm going to unmark my payoff accumulation buttons. Okay, so now let's start from scratch. So you'll have our current mortgage. On our investment product, we're going to take our savings. You'll see how the savings is $338.50, and I'm applying it to my investment account. Every month I'm going to apply that savings to my investment account. I'm able to earn 4%, and in just a moment we'll go ahead and talk about goals and possibly already having an account established. So we'll talk about that. So with this, it's just taking the $338, the savings, and applying it to an investment account. Now, Freedom Point. This is how you can pay your mortgage off faster. So we're taking that amount of money and we're applying it directly toward principal. So you can see how if they keep that same payment that they're currently making, they'll have that loan paid off in 21.33 years versus their path now at 28.17. Excuse me, just one moment. Okay. So you have that, and you have the principal. You'll see, now let's remove the amount going toward the principal because I made a copy from my first product it carried over. So I removed the amount of money going toward an investment. That amount of money is going directly to principal. So now let's take a look at our third product. We now increase that loan amount $50,000, so let's accommodate for it. I'm going to put in $50,000 at 4%, and my savings is 88.79. So each month we're going to add that amount toward our investment account and be able to have that total. So we'll be able to see how much they'll be able to have. So first, before we mark these boxes at the very base, let's go ahead and just say OK. Remember, to see any adjustments on a presentation, you need to move left or right, and that will go ahead and make the adjustments. So you can see that I have my freedom point at 30 years for the two products, where we're applying the amount of money toward a reinvestment. So if we open up the reinvestment screen, you can see how we have that dollar amount. So with that, let's go ahead and close this out. And what I was thinking of doing is, let me go ahead and I'm copying the link. If you want to follow along with the link, I am placing it in the chat area, and you can go ahead and click on the link and open up the presentation. By doing so, you're going to see how my changes are going to update, so that is Yield Experience Edge Live, as well as understanding the presentation. So now let's go back to that reinvestment strategy. So now with it, let's go ahead and just see what happens here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark pay off my savings with the accumulation. So I'm marking the box, and you'll see my freedom point just changed. So at a little over 20 years, I'll have enough money from my savings account here and my investment account to pay off the balance of the loan. So let's go through that again. So on the second product, I'm paying principal. I have a little bit of savings left. I don't have anything in my investment account, and I'm not applying anything monthly. Let's click on that button, and you'll see it dropped a little bit. Even though we're applying principal here, we do have a little bit of savings that we have accumulating, and that dropped us down to around 20 years. So now let's take a look at the reinvestment strategy. We applied the $50,000 that we cashed out, and we're applying that monthly savings of $88. With that, you can see 139. That 139 is the investment balance as well as that savings balance. So let's click on that, and you can see how it reduced that. So a little over 20 years, they would be able to pay off their mortgage. So I also want to point out a couple other items. You'll see here the accumulation after 15 years. This is just the total amount for the 15th year. So to be able to change that, if I press OK, you could go ahead and put in the long-term analysis, say at 20 years. Let's just advance the screen back and forth. Remember, we were updating our numbers. And now let's go back into that reinvestment strategy. So with that, you could see the amount of money that's being able to be applied. So it gives you a little bit more of an idea how much is accrued during that time period. So with that, let's press OK, and let's take a look at our report. So with that, the way our report changed slightly is our freedom point. We now are displaying a freedom point for the investment and the reinvestment account, because we're taking that savings and showing how they can pay off that loan early. So we have that information there. You can also see the reduction payment that we're showing for the Freedom Point. And then if you go into that More Info button, you got that information again for the reinvestment. You'll also see that the boxes are marked. I should go back and mark that current mortgage because there is also a savings balance here. So we want to be able to go ahead and account for that as well. So we'll make that change and mark that box too. Want to show you in the long-term area. The long-term area is where you can actually get that ending balance. So if I click on that More Info button, you can see the loan balance, and we're showing at the end of the 20-year period. So you can see with that how much is needed to be paid off, and then you can also see with their investment account again how much they would have to be able to pay off their loan. Let's go back into the reinvestment. Now say you've been talking to the borrower and you found out that they actually already have an investment account and you have a balance in it. So let's go ahead and unmark these boxes here. They found out that they have an investment account of $35,000. You would want to place that across the board because this would be for each one. But with the $50,000 cash out, you want to increase that, not only the 35, you want to make sure you're reflecting that 50,000. So let's go ahead and put 85,000 as our starting balance. So now with that, you can see how the adjustment of each monthly amount to each of those products. So now let's go ahead and take a look at that Freedom Point. So if I click on the current mortgage, it goes from 28.17 down to about 21. And you can see how all of them are decreasing. So you can see how they can build their wealth. You can show them what they currently have, give them a little estimate, and give them an idea of potentially how much they have saved built on this path when they can pay off that mortgage. On the lower right-hand corner, you could go ahead and also show them total net worth or total principal paid during that time period. You have the different options to be able to provide that to them. And we talked about showing the break-even point. So on the report, we show that 5-year mark. And you're curious, where is that break-even point for the refinance? If you look at the short-term analysis month, the reason why it is in months is so you can find that break-even point. So if we remove that 60, and let's go ahead and put in 2 years. So if I put in 24 months, look at the very base. The number's adjusted for you, and you can already see that 50,000. They haven't recouped that cost yet after 2 years, but they definitely have for the other two products just by refinancing out. Let's try after the year 1. So you can see they haven't recouped their cost at the within the first year. And just to be able to see on the larger image, let's advance the screen. And you'll see in the short-term area now how that number is going to change and then also show the differences. So if you wanted to take a look to see what those negatives are, if you click on the More Info, you can see how much interest in MI they've accrued, but you also got to remember to account for the costs. So with that, if we go ahead and close that out, and let's go back and work with that a little bit more. So now with that, we have short-term analysis at 12 months. So let's try 18. And then you can see how I'm just working with it to find the exact break-even point. So it's probably just a little bit over a year because 12 was negative on these two products, but 13th month, they've already recouped their costs. You can also do this with Edge Live with them while they're viewing the presentation and just make those adjustments and be able to show them over the phone on that. So now let's take and find out where the reinvestment where that product becomes break even. So we definitely know 24 months it was still negative, but it's really close. So let's go ahead and try 30th month. Still a little bit negative. I'm hovering my mouse over the bar graph and it's showing me a negative 29. So if we just increased it by 1 month, I'll bet that will go ahead and put us at a positive. So at that, if they took out $50,000, they would then have a break-even point at the 30th month. And see how you can display that on the presentation as well. So if you go into that more info, you can see the interest in MI for that 31 months plus the fees and then that total cost. So you can always go into those numbers, into that more info, and really break that down. Okay, let's go ahead and place short term back up at 60. And I want to add one more item in the reinvestment and mortgage insurance. How can you reinvest mortgage insurance? So I'm going to go ahead and adjust. Click open that matrix. And none of our products have MI, but the current mortgage does. You know, so to be able to show them, you'll see here, MI cutoff month, month 100. So unmark this box here. And let's double click on this field. So if I double click, and this can be on any product, another matrix will open up. And this is how you can either reinvest mortgage insurance or have lump sum payments, anything like that. So what I want to do to reinvest mortgage insurance, take a look at the very base of the screen, and it tells you what month there's no longer mortgage insurance. So I'm putting at month 100, take that $210 and apply it to principal. I press OK. And now let's take a look. It brings that freedom point down to 25 years. And let's go ahead and add the investment. It brought it down to a little less than 20 years. You're still doing, let's go back to the presentation. So with that, what I have just done is shown apples to apples. We have now taken into account the mortgage insurance that drops from the loan, and then each product, either through the payment or through the investment or the principal, these numbers, monthly numbers, will match the current mortgage. So that's what we refer to as apples to apples. So with that, what I want to do now is switch over to the mobile device really quick, just to show you how you can use Edge Live on the mobile and be able to drive this presentation there. And with that, if there's any other questions you have, please go ahead and put it in the question area, and we can go ahead and address those questions. So what I'm doing here is taking my link to my presentation and opening up a new tab, just like if a borrower would have clicked on the tab and opened the presentation themselves. So this is how they would go ahead and open this up. And then what I want to do now is click on I understand. And let's bring up my mobile device. Okay. So with the mobile device, I have my presentation currently up. So what I'm going to do is I am on an Android, and I'm just using my back arrow to bring me to the Mortgage Coach app. So with the Mortgage Coach app, if you have not downloaded, go to your app store, search for Mortgage Coach, download the Mortgage Coach app, as well as the Rate Watch app. So do both of them, and then be able to view your presentations. So I want to point out a couple other items. You'll have a history button here. That history button will provide you a list of all the files you have viewed. So if you have files, sample files that you create, like in this particular case I have FHA versus conventional. I do have a cost of weight. I have MI presentations, like MI comparison. This is a great way of viewing the presentations and being able to have quick access, be able to pull it up to view it for anybody. So that is the history, and that's on just recently viewed files. And to see all your files, you just want to access the silhouette that's in that upper left-hand corner. That will take you to your account. With that, you can see how you log in. It's the same login ID and password as you use with Mortgage Coach, Edge, and RateWatch. And then once you go in here, you'll see that you'll be able to view your partners, your clients, and then your performance. You can see that I've had 9 views today on one report. So this is the report we've been working on, and I've had it viewed open to close 9 times. So to be able to see that, I want to click on my clients area. And you can see the first file is right there, the jars of investment. And let me go to Mortgage Coach real quick. Our home screen. Want to point out, you'll see that these are following the same flow as your home screen in Edge. So you also have a search capability if you want to search for a specific file. So let's just go into our 3 jars of investment. And I'm going into a total cost analysis. And this is where you determine which way you're going. We could do live reporting, which is what I was going to show, and then also having a video. So we'll do that in just one moment, but first let's do Edge Live. So with Edge Live reporting, let's go ahead and click on live reporting, and it's very simple. So let me go ahead and bring this down a little bit so you can see how I drive the presentation through my mobile device. At the very bottom of the presentation, you'll see that I do not have a Clear All button. The Clear All button lets you know that it's the loan officer's copy. When there isn't one, that's the borrower's copy, meaning I can't make any highlights at all, and I can't clear out highlights. So this is the borrower's copy, and now I'm on the mobile device, and I want to go ahead and drive the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Summary, and I want to go into my payment breakdown. So with that, when I click on payment breakdown, you'll notice that behind me, I just drove my presentation. It opened up the More Info button, and it's highlighting what I'm highlighting on my mobile device. So you can see how I just moved to closing costs on my web page. It also went ahead and opened up to the closing cost tabs here. And with that, also to my reinvestment tab. If I click on that right at the base here, it will move my screen. And again, I'd be able to make those highlights. So if I wanted to go down, show that $35,000 that I made my adjustments and the rate, I just go ahead and tap on it. I mean, it's really simple to be able to drive the presentation and go back out. You can even go into the monthly summary. And so this way you'd be able to, and here's your notes and more info here, you'd be able to talk, if you're not at a computer or a laptop, you could still drive the presentation through your mobile device and be able to hold that conversation with the borrower. Let me see how we could drive that. So now going back out to the home screen here. So with that, let's go ahead and go back into, well, maybe we're going into our previous. Let's go back. Performance, just to show you what performance is. If you click on performance, it will show you your 9 views. You can have your client or your partner, and you can do a month or a week. So this will tell you how many clients and how many views you have. So that's this area here. Before we go into the video and the clients, I want to point out the silhouette again. So in the upper right-hand corner, click on Silhouette. And want to point out this line. This is to prompt you for an album of video. So if you already have a pre-recorded video, you could go ahead and prompt it to upload. But we always suggest every time you send a brand new presentation, always record that presentation directly to your client. So let's go into client, 3 jars of investment, total cost analysis, and now let's click on video instead of live reporting. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go into Edge videos. Hi everyone, I'm Lori. So with that, you can see how I'm just viewing my screen here and be able to talk to the borrower, give them some information. You'd also be able to view around, move the mobile device as such if you're in an open house presentation and be able to put information. You can also switch around the same way and be able to record if you're walking through an open house. So either way, you always have a quick way of recording that video message. And this is a really great way to keep your client updated. So with that, if you have any changes, you could go ahead and re-record a message, let them send it to them, let them know, and it's just a quick way of being able to get your word out to them. So we have that. And with that, we're going to be wrapping up our call today. If you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and hang around. Just remember, when you go into Edge, use that help button. Help button will take you directly to our support center. Want to point out our calendar of events. And with the calendar of events, if you're new to Mortgage Coach, we have a great introduction training every Monday. So every Monday we have an intro to Mortgage Coach. Mortgage Coach University starts next week, and if you haven't been on it, please do. We have a 3-week course. If you click on it over on the right-hand side, you'll be able to see the curriculum. So if you go into here, you'll be able to go ahead and click, and you can see all the different things we will train on during our MCU courses. So a lot of things you can do in Mortgage Coach Edge. Definitely sign up for those classes, and thank you everyone for attending today's training, the 3 jars of investment. I'll hang around for a few moments. Other than that, have a wonderful day, everyone. Talk to you next week.